And then once the sun goes down and you lose all your primal lighting. So, what I'm going to be talking about very, very quickly is a anime that's on Netflix, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. And I think I enjoyed it because it seemed like such a juxtaposition. It's like normally I wouldn't go for that type of show, but I actually ended up finding it very enjoyable. But with anything, there's some issues with it. So, first of all, the animes that I'm talking about is called Come Back Here So I Can See the Title. It's called Kak. Watch my 2 years of Japanese here. Well, not 2 years, like 2 semesters, so 1 year. All right, so it's Kakeguri. Maybe. Anywho, I believe that translates to impulsive gambler. Um, Here is what I find so interesting. It takes the addiction of gambling, and instead of coming at it from like a, oh, this is wrong way, or even coming at it in a way that you watch how gambling can absolutely ruin these people's lives, but instead of coming at it from a negative way, you come at it from it like the show comes at it in a not supportive way completely, but more of like a, this is just how it is, this is this addiction, and this is how they thrive off of it. And like that was so fascinating to get into that mindset where we're not condoning the aspect of gambling, but rather this entire world kind of works off of it. And I don't want to give too much spoilers, but that's going to be just a smidge hard as I'm trying to talk about the characters. Like, for example, what I found so interesting is usually the protagonist and antagonist of a show, especially anime, generally are two very opposite type characters, whereas with this, they were cut from the absolute same cloth. They had extreme similar personalities. The only difference was just where they came from, i.e., the main character. She comes in rather late to the school year, so she doesn't have any hierarchy standing, whereas the main antagonist, the school president, she's had those years there and therefore has like put in this abusive situation, and the main character, instead of trying to change that system, is finding it enjoyable and actually agrees with it. So it's this fascinating like take on it because you're not expecting that, and that's what happens. And I'm so sorry, I keep saying the main character, and I need to come up with her name. Here we go. So the main character's name is Yumiko Jabami, I think that's how you pronounce it. And the whole reasons why I wasn't saying her name was because I actually forgot, is because I watched this about a month ago, and it's only just now that I'm able to make the review on it. It is so fascinating, these characters, and just like how each one approaches gambling and what gambling does for them. And really, it shows they're all addicted to the adrenaline, but for some characters, that addiction, that adrenaline rush, just does more for them than just being an adrenaline rush. It's an actual sexual high for them, which, if you are not comfortable with any kind of like sexual anything, then you'll definitely want to skip some episodes, because this show is rated TV 14. I would say it should be rated TVM, just because there is a scene where a girl is jacking herself off because of the adrenaline rush she gets from gambling. and there are sounds that are made, and it is a thing that happens. And I was sitting there going, it's like I'm no, I just wasn't. I was not prepared, was not expecting, did not want. And there's a scene where the rush of gambling, it's not the main character, it's not Yumiko that happens to, although Yumiko actually does. It's heavily implied that she gets a sexual high off of gambling, but she does not go to the level that this one character does, where she legit comes on screen, and like you don't see that, but it's just like the camera goes to the floor, and then suddenly there are liquids splurting onto the floor, and I was just like, I'm not comfortable. What the hell is going on? So, warning about that. Other than that, what I found really fascinating in this show was the opening. The opening sequence, the opening song for this show, you learn so much throughout that entire thing. You learn so much. And when the first, the first couple episodes you're watching, you're like, this opening, the opening theme song and the animation that goes with it is kind of fascinating. I don't know what's going on. By the time you get to this 5th or 6th episode, you're starting to make those connections. You're like, whoa, wait a second. This is a story, a prequel in and of itself about the characteristics of each character in the show. And I thought that was really well done and very spellbinding. I usually fast forward the opening intros just because, once or twice is awesome, but then afterwards I'm like, okay, I want to get to the show. Fast forward. This one, I actually watched it every single time just because each time I picked out something different about it, and it was like, whoa. And there was a lot of psychological stuff going on with it that related to the characters and the plot and how the story works. And I was like, whoa, that's really intelligent. I really liked it. One thing I did not like at all was that this is done in a high school setting, and it was frustrating for me because, first of all, we're getting sexualization of minors, which is really icky and ew, no, thank you. And then also, if this is a high school, this is a very abusive scenario, and I understand that it's like, oh, this is to better our children so they can take over our businesses, but this is just straight out what was going on in the school was abusive, and there was not one adult doing anything about it. And I understand that a high school AU is, or a high school show is for, people of that age to connect to, but I'm watching this going, there cannot be any person these kids' age that is connecting to this level with these characters. And maybe there is, I don't know, but I'm just watching it going, it just, to me, it did not make sense in a high school setting. In fact, I felt that they were even more, by having a high school setting, I felt that it limited the potential of the show and the characters. I think if they had been adults, then not only would I have been totally fine with the sexualization of these characters, but I also would have liked the world building a little bit more, because essentially, I think you've seen adult just once, and then there's no adult ever, and I just felt that it limited the show. Why not have them actually be adults that are either in college or graduated from college, or they haven't even gotten to college, but they're in mid-20s to early 30s, and this is a gambling joint, and that these are the strict, weird rules because it's their business and their policy, as opposed to knowing that there's parents sending their kids to this really terrible social environment. But so other than the sexualization, the girl jacking herself off, and being set in a high school world, I actually found this show really enjoyable. It takes a look at gambling, and instead of condoning it, and instead of even Yumiko coming in and being like, wow, this is a terrible thing, we need to change the system, it was just taking a whole new look at it. And that was what was so interesting. That's what made the characters so phenomenal. And you just never knew what Yumiko is going to do next. It was spellbinding. And so I recommend this show. Again, keep with those three things I mentioned earlier. Keep that in mind in case if you become uncomfortable with it. But other than that, I really like the show, and I was surprised at how much I liked it. So that's my thoughts on it. The Golden Sound Twice out. Have a good night. Bye!